But see, with real estate, guys, freedom. Because when I hear people talk about, man, I got to go to work tomorrow. I talked to a lady the other day, and I said, how'd you do today at work? She said, well, just another day, about like every other day. And she does not look forward to going to work. Have you ever been there?
Yeah.
I mean, if you've had a job where you wake up and your first thought is, I got to go, but I don't want to, right? With real estate, if I choose to go to McDonald's in the morning, and I'm not going to go out and do anything till 10:30, I'm the one that votes on this, right? I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
The freedom.
Success in business means nothing.
If you're losing in other areas of your life,
It's time to stop just building wealth.
and start leading with conviction. I'm Jake Tracy.
I'm Sean Skyver, and this is the blueprint for the modern man, mastering real estate, scaling business.
And honoring God and family through courageous stewardship.
Let's get to work.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Courageous Stewards podcast. We're here with another guest today, and we are thrilled. You want to put yourself generally in rooms with people who know more, have more experience, and are far more capable than you are. This is one of those episodes. We're here with Mike Paschall. He is an investor, has been for many, many years, and I've known Mike for quite some time. But we wanted to bring him in for his expertise and knowledge in the real estate industry, and more specifically, things like seller financing, subject to, lease options, some of those things that we don't talk a lot about, but generally they are fantastic avenues if you can pull it off, and if you know enough and have enough support around you to get the baseline knowledge that you need to pull off something like that. So I want to start by talking with Mike just a little bit about his story and his experience and what he's gone through from maybe from a young investor until now. So talk about that a little bit, Mike.
Well, hey, I want to say that I appreciate you guys having me. I figured eventually you'd get to me after you said you wanted to interview all the handsome people. It was finally ready for me. But yeah, I've been in real estate for a few decades now. I mean, that sounds shocking to hear, but I would say the biggest thing that attracted me to it was just the freedom. And I would say you guys probably agree with that, because if you're going to be in something, I see these people running off and they start these little, they get these businesses of, well, hey, I'm here, how are you going to make extra money? I'm going to deliver sandwiches. I'm going to deliver pizzas. Well, where are you going with that, right? And when I got into real estate, I'll tell you how I started. This was back probably close to the year 2000, give or take. And I went to an auction, and they had 3 houses they were auctioning off. A big landlord got himself in financial trouble. He started blowing his money, not taking care of him. So the bank was taking it back. And at the auction, I bought all 3 houses. Now, with the confidence that goes with ignorance, because I had no idea what I was doing. Back then I had got approved with a loan with the bank. That's how I first started. I didn't really have any money, but they said, well, the bank was mad at the investor who had got himself in trouble. So I think back then they made a few exceptions. Nowadays, loans are trickier to get. You got to jump through a lot of hoops, as we all know. But back then, if you had a history of paying your bills, they'd be like, yeah, we'll do it for you. So they approved me. So I said, okay, I'll take that one and that one. And I bought all 3. And I overpaid. I really did. I'd like to tell you that I was a suave, clever investor. And boy, did I know what I was doing. Not a clue. Not a clue. But again, with the confidence that goes with ignorance, I jumped in. I paid almost retail prices. I still have all 3 properties today.
You still own all 3?
Yep. They're in sunny Bryan, Ohio, home, the vacation capital of the world over there. Yeah. Just kidding. There's no beaches, is there? But I still own the properties because I was stubborn. And I thought, once I figured out as a little time went by, well, the house is worth this, and I paid almost this, and it needs work. All 3 were rented with tenants that had a history of not paying their rent. So all of a sudden I'm in there with people. Next thing you know, I'm in there arguing with them. And I had to learn the hard way. They'd be like, oh, can you give me till next week? Okay, I'll do that. Because I trusted people. Because if I make a deal, I plan on honoring it. Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I figured they would. Well, they taught me no, they're not going to honor it. But now, looking back, it's worked out real good, because all 3 houses, which I still own, are now worth, I don't know, maybe double, or if not 2.5 times what I paid for them back then. I would have to look in my books to see what I really paid. I don't remember the numbers. But you know what? A guy told me one time, he said, if you want to be a millionaire, buy $1 million worth of property and get somebody else to pay for it.
Yeah.
And they did. Over time, the renter, and I'd get a different renter here and a different renter there, but over time, then properties, I just slowly would increase the rent if something needed done. And to this day, I don't know, we're not going to go deep into numbers on them because I haven't bothered to look them up, but it's been a good thing. And I never looked back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You kind of have gotten into the single family space primarily as your
Yes.
kind of niche.
That was my bread and butter.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why I did that. You can do this business anywhere if there's people. Now, if you decide to go live on the backside of the desert where there's one guy every 50 miles, maybe you got a challenge. But I discovered anytime there's people in the area, what does everybody need? A place to live.
Yep.
Right. And the reason I went with single family houses is because they cash flow awesome. If people have to choose between living in an apartment or having their own driveway and no neighbors tapping on the walls, they'll take their single family house, I believe, most of the time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
agreed.
I would agree.
They just will.
Yeah, that's true. So how did that transition into you kind of building this portfolio and then getting into the whole seller finance space where you didn't really go to banks too often to purchase these properties, but rather either work with the seller or get some other investor to kind of put up the money to do that?
Looking back, I think that bank loan for those 3 properties was the only loan I ever got. There might have been one more, maybe I did get a loan on, but I bumped into somebody who got themselves in trouble financially. And guys and gals, everybody, I don't care who you are, if you're alive, we've made a few mistakes in our life. Lord knows I've been the king of that, right? But if you find somebody that maybe a divorce happens or there's a death happens, somebody passes away, and all of a sudden they shift from being a person who would just like to sell, I've considered selling, I'm going to see what my house is worth, they shift over to, oh my gosh, I'm in trouble. I've got to sell this house. And I ran into somebody, and I asked them this question. They were going on and on about what they were going to do. And I think, if I recall, they were 2 or 3 payments behind. I don't remember the exact numbers, but they were a little bit behind. And this lady was stressed out. And I said, well, would you sell it for what you owe? And then I just shut up. Now, I used to be in sales. I did a lot of door-to-door sales. And I just had learned over time, when you ask them a question, shut up. And I said, would you sell it for what you owe? She's like, and she paused. And I could see she was thinking about it, so I just shut up and smiled. And she said, well, I need a little moving money. I'm like, okay, well, I could probably do that. And again, with the confidence that goes with ignorance, I jumped in. And I had to catch up a couple payments. I don't remember if it was 2 or 3. It doesn't really matter at this point. But I caught it up with the bank. And now, did I qualify for a loan? No. No tax returns needed to be produced. I didn't have to jump through any hoops. Guess who approved the loan? Me. Okay, I had a board meeting with myself and said, yes, I'm in. Mike, you're a good guy. We're approved. So I gave her, I don't even remember the movie money. She needed enough money just to get out of there. And I took over the house. And when I got it in, it needed the standard stuff. When a house gets lived in, they moved out. It needed a little freshening. But I took it over, caught up the payments, and just got going. I just recently did one this summer with another one here in town that was subject to. A lady had passed away. Now, her daughter had a sentimental value on the house. It was a house you stopped over on Hague Street.
Oh, yeah.
Her daughter had a sentimental value. She didn't want to go and deal with the house because it was her mom's house. And she said everywhere she looked, I see my mom in the kitchen. I see my mom in the living room. I just can't deal with this. And I said, hey, how about this? I'll take over the payments. Now, let me give you the numbers. She got a 30-year mortgage she's already paid on for 17 years. Well, if you ever had a bank loan, we know that most of the interest is already paid.
Right,
now when they make a payment,
you're on the
the
right
payment's
side.
going right smack dab to principal. It's paying down quick now.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the house is it's probably worth, I don't know, somewhere 125 to 150, give or take in that area. She only owed 50, low 50s, 50, 52, 53,000. And so I took over the house, caught up a few payments because she was behind. Her mom had passed. She wasn't making the payments. And I said, we'll restore the house and make your mom proud. And she liked hearing that. You could see that just made her heart beat with joy right there. And I said, we'll take it over. Now, I took over. The payment on that house was really cheap because she had it back when rates were low. I think her payment was $500 and some a month, including taxes and insurance because it's escrow.
Wow. Yeah,
Under
good.
$600 a month. I rent it out right now for $11.95 a month. Okay, so I make enough I can keep feeding the babies. We don't want them to starve to death, right? But that's called seller financing. Well, no, that's called subject to. Now, what about the bank? Somebody worried about what if the bank calls the note due? Put yourself in the bank's shoes. You're a bank. What's the only goal you have? To loan money and make interest, right? To make a profit. Well, this loan went from being a loan that they were non-performing. They were going to probably end up foreclosing, which cost the bank money. They have to resell it, clean it out, all the stuff. And all of a sudden, a payment comes in. And then another payment comes in. In fact, I set it up on an ACH program. I asked the daughter if I could have the login to the bank. She gave it to me. I went in there, set up, I changed the password so that I could get in and out as it needed. I set it up on auto draft, and every month they just stuck a payment out of my bank account, and I get thank you emails. They say, thank you, Gracie. That doesn't offend me, even though I'm not really a good-looking Gracie, right? But see, with real estate, guys, freedom. Because when I hear people talk about, man, I got to go to work tomorrow. I talked to a lady the other day, and I said, how'd you do today at work? She's a nail tech at a salon. She says, just another day. I said, would you make any money? She said, well, just another day, about like every other day. And she does not look forward to going to work. Have you ever been there?
Yeah.
I mean, if you've had a job where you wake up and your first thought is, I got to go, but I don't want to, right? With real estate, if I choose to go to McDonald's in the morning, and I'm not going to go out and do anything till 10:30, I'm the one that votes on this, right? I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
The freedom. And I hear people talk about, you see people on TV with, I call it TV rich. You know what I'm talking about? They got these fake cars, and they act like they're driving Ferraris, and they're driving Lamborghinis. No, they're not. Be real. That's TV rich. You know what real freedom is? In real estate, you can set up enough real estate that will give you an income. And I don't know what you want. You may want $4,000 a month. That's really easy. You may want $7,500 a month. Okay, it's just a little bit more work. I want $10,000 a month. Well, great, we can do that. I can set you up a plan. I'm not trying to get off track, but I met with a lady this Saturday. I was talking to her, and she was kind of down on herself, and she said, will you meet with me and show me some marketing ideas? And I said, yeah. And we met at a restaurant in Toledo. I was talking to her, and she's about 60 years old, give or take. And I said, we got to talk. And then finally I asked her a question. I said, well, how much real estate do you have? Because she was acting like she didn't do it. She says, well, I got about $4 million worth right now. But she said, I don't like to let people know that. And I'm like, maybe I should be talking to her, right? And she just started in real estate. Jake, she started in real estate, I think she said 2009 or 2010. Talked to somebody who told her, yeah, you should get into real estate. So she did.
Yeah.
And she bought a house, then she bought another one. Now, that didn't happen overnight. Right. She bought a house here and a house there. But guys and gals, in real estate, the margins are there. Do you know what I mean by the term margins?
Yeah.
If you're going to start a business, if you're going to start selling cookware door to door, if you're only going to make $12,
right,
don't leave home.
Right.
The margin's not there. In real estate, I've heard investors say to me, this is common to hear, how'd you do on that house? I only made $15,000. And they act like they're frustrated. Yeah. That doesn't happen in pizza delivery. That doesn't happen in the food delivery. That doesn't, right? And they're like, I only made $15,000. I only made $18,000. You know, in our business, I believe God gives us the right and the talent that anybody can do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you'll apply yourself.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, you have to do something. You have to get out of bed, shut the TV off. Exactly. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get off track.
That's okay. Let's circle back a little bit and structure what a subject to deal might look like. Can you kind of talk about that?
Real easy. Subject to is simply this. They're behind in payments to the lender. Only you can run the numbers and decide if it's a good deal. Are they one payment behind? You're probably not going to get the deal. Why? Because they still believe that they can borrow money from grandma or Aunt Betsy and they'll catch that payment up. But once they get 3-4 payments behind, life habits are life habits, right? Like we were talking about. They've got a history of this, that, and the other, and they're not going to pull all of it. So I say, would you sell the house for what you owe? Now, here's U.S. law. If they deed the house to me, I own it. Now, I've had people say, well, where's the deed? Is it in a lockbox? Is it a storage chest? Is it hidden in the garage? Oh my God, I don't know where the deed is. Stop. None of that matters. You take a blank deed, a bare deed, not filled out. We have them sign, usually at a title company or in front of a notary. That's the bare minimum. If they, as the owner, sign that deed over to me or my entity, my LLC or a trust or whatever, whoever they sign it over to now owns the property. I can paint it pink if I want to. I can take the cabinets off that wall and put them on that wall. It's my house. I'm now the owner. Can they ever take the house back? No. I deeded it to me. So then I have them sign a purchase agreement that says they agree to sell, I agree to buy, here's an agreed on price. Doesn't matter what the numbers are. Enough to pay it off and whatever they want. Now let's talk about that. What do they want? I don't just make them a crazy offer because he who speaks first may overpay, right? So I say, well, what do you need? Well, they may pick a number. Well, I need $150,000. Do you really need $150,000? What do you owe the lender? Well, I owe this. So what are you just trying to get enough to move on and to pay for the truck or you move to wherever land, right? So I'm going to hire a title company to do a search. Here in Ohio, we have title companies. It may be a closing attorney. Doesn't matter. It's the same game. They'll do a title search, make sure the title's clear. I recommend buying title insurance just in case there's some liens on it. Maybe they got sued and they forgot to tell you that. Oh, yeah, I stiffed a dentist and I stiffed a doctor and the electric company. There's a house in Toledo I was looking at, and the guy's $10,000 behind with the electric company. Well, they may want to attach a lien, right?
Yeah.
That's $10,000 that I don't want to pay. That's his bill. But I'll do a purchase agreement. I have them sign the deed over. I have a little disclosures that I've got put together. They understand they're selling the house. I have them do a few things, but it's real simple. From that point on, I'm now making payments directly to the bank. Again, like I was talking about a few minutes ago, the bank just wants paid. They don't care whether Mike's paying it or Jake's paying it. If the payment's coming in, and now, does the bank recommend that? No, but they're going to turn their head when money's coming in. Yeah. What's the worst that can happen to you? Can you go to jail? No, it's not illegal.
They'll call the loan.
Yeah, worst that happens is they say, hey, we're going to call this loan due. If they call the loan due, who are they suing? The person that agreed to pay. I didn't agree to pay with a mortgage, right? I have done tons and tons and tons of the subject to. I really like it. The only other thing that I would say is better than subject to is the seller financing. Because I have good credit. I pay my bills, okay? But I don't want to go and jump through the hoops. What is seller financing? And that's simply where I ask the seller to be the bank. Yeah. Hey, what are you going to do with the money? I had an older gentleman sold me a building. His wife had passed away. He didn't want to run the business anymore. It was a little commercial building. And I said, do you need the money? Well, no, not really. I was just, he was older. He's getting up there in years. He said, I'm tired of it. I said, okay, what if I made payments directly to you? Because aren't you going to just put the money in the bank? Oh, yeah. What kind of interest rates is the bank paying you? What are interest rates? Really low.
Yeah.
Right?
Most banks, your brick and mortars are paying nothing.
Nothing.
Nearly nothing.
I looked at an account the other day. I had a CD that it matured, they call it, and they wouldn't renew where it was. And it was bad. It was 3 or 4%. But now they're going to renew it at like 1.
Yep.
Well, what's the point in putting the money in the bank? So I said to him, now watch this. Would you like to get a higher rate of return with safety? Well, yeah, how do I do that? What if we agreed with this? You be the bank. We'll deed the house to me or my entity. That's another topic. You deed the house to me or the building to me. You be the bank. I'll make payments directly to you. He's like, well, how long will we deed? I said, well, how long do you want to make good return? Well, see, that's kind of a loaded
question.
Yeah, how long do you want to get a higher rate of return? He says, what do you got in mind? Now, this was a few years back, and I think if I recall, I offered him 7%, 6 or 7 or 8, somewhere in that area. And I said, how about I give you 7% on your money? You can't get that in the savings account. And I said, and furthermore, we'll sign a promissory note. What's the promissory note? It's simply a 1-page document that says, I promise to pay. You can download them. You probably heard of something called Google. You can find them on there. I'm kidding a little bit. Your attorney can prepare it. Title companies can do anybody. They're common. I'm going to promise to pay. And if I don't pay, you can take the property back.
Yep.
He agreed. I paid him in full. He was happy. I bet you $1 that he got used to getting those monthly checks.
I bet.
I bet when they stopped, he was like, darn it.
Do you remember what the final terms on it was?
I do not.
Like how long you paid
him
I
think I did 5 years.
5 years.
I think we agreed on 5 years. And the advantage of doing a short term like that is it's amortized over a shorter period of time, so I'm actually paying less interest. And really, in the grand scheme of things, if your deal won't support you paying somebody 5, 6, 7%, it's probably a bad deal anyways.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Because you can overpay.
So here's the structure in a nutshell behind that. If you agree to pay somebody over a 5-year period, you can amortize it over a much longer period of time, which will reduce how much you're actually paying them each month of the 5 years before you have to refinance it.
Yeah.
So if you put it on a 20-year amortization, your payment is going to be slightly higher than if you push it out and put it on a 30-year amortization. Your payment will be a little bit lower. Now, you're not going to pay it off to that person as fast. Then when you refinance it, you will go to a bank or another entity and
that's all absolutely true. But let me give you another example. I did another seller financing with a guy here in town. He inherited a house. Do you know the common thing is I'm dealing with people that more need to sell than want to sell.
Yeah, you're in a necessity situation.
You betcha. I'm looking for the motivated seller, the people that have something happened in life beyond their control that they just want to get rid of this problem. Mike rides in a white horse solving problems. Here I am, folks. I'm your answer. And I said to this guy, would you sell me this house? I'll make payments directly to you. Now, I thought, I'm not going to offer any interest. He didn't ask for any. So he says, well, what do you offer? How about this? I'll pay you $700 a month and whatever. I think we agreed on $40,000. It was just a small, inexpensive, cheap rental house here in town. He said, okay. So I didn't offer it. He didn't ask. So I'm paying 0%. Now, look at your pay down. I didn't have to worry about 30 years, did I, or 20 years?
Right. You're paying directly to principal every single
You
month.
bet you on that one right there. Now, and I said, now I'll guarantee all the taxes and the insurance. I'll take care of them, which I will. First of all, I'm going to keep my word because I'm honest. Second of all, you'd be an idiot not to pay your taxes and insurance because the county's going to notice. They're going to come get. But that one there, I did zero financing. Now, I had another person one time said, well, what kind of interest are you going to pay me? And I said, well, I noticed you don't have all the expenses of a bank, do you? And he goes, well, what do you mean? I said, well, banks have marble floors and 12-foot ceilings, and they got to pay all the bank tellers. You're not paying any of that, are you? He's like, well, no. Well, you could probably give me a lot better rate than a bank, could you? He's like, well, yeah. Well, what sounds fair? I mean, now, I throw out, when I make an offer, I try to make an offer that I'm ashamed of. Why?
Because you can only go up from there.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's the worst that happens, right? They get mad, and then I can calm them down. Okay, so we know what you won't do.
Yep.
Let's talk about what you will do, all right? And I'm like, well, what do you need? 1% on your money? He's like, I ain't doing this for a dime less than 3%. All right. Now, I just got approved myself alone there at 3%, right?
Yeah.
And now, did I have to go? I'm not at the mercy of the credit union board meeting. I'm not waiting on the loan committee. I approved that baby.
Yeah.
And they're happy. Now, am I screwing the seller? No, they're protected. If we do a promissory note and we have a lien on this property, which the title company will be glad to prepare all this for you. You do not have to become a paperwork expert. You'll get good at paperwork over time because you see it enough.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, you don't do any of it. Mm-mm. You do a purchase and sale, and then you call the title company and say, hey, I'm buying, they're selling, do this stuff. What do I need? They'll take care of all of it for a fee. Right?
Yeah.
Now, and if there's a realtor, they'll do their job. You're a realtor, they'll do their paperwork. But no, it makes it really easy. I'm sorry, I get excited.
No, that's fine.
No,
that's really good stuff.
It is good stuff. I love it. I've had a couple creative deals. I was talking to Jake, being as new as I am to the space, having already had, I think, 5 deals, no money deals already.
Yeah.
And then a creative finance on a flip I'm doing here in Defiance on a duplex, where the seller was just a good guy, doesn't need the money either.
Right.
And was willing to even hold the note while I renovated it to refi it out. So I've got a private investor on the rental cost. The seller's holding the note, so I have no money in the deal. I'm going to be renovating it and then cash out refi, pay everybody off, and I'm going to have a great property at a great price at good rent. So.
And that's awesome. And I'm not opposed to you getting bank loans. I've just, I had a preacher tell me something one time. He said, in the book of Romans, it says, owe no man nothing but to love him. And he's like, I don't like a lot of debt. And I'm not opposed. I have debt too, don't get me wrong.
Right.
Not a lot, but I mean, I bought a pickup. It made sense to finance it. I don't have a Ferrari. I got a pickup. Somebody said, what kind? A black one. But anyways, but what happens is if I can get them to carry the note, like you're talking about.
Yeah.
Now, it depends on your exit strategy. That's always in real estate. What's the answer to every single real estate question? It depends.
Yeah.
That is the answer. Because it always, what's the answer? Well, what's your exit? What are you planning on doing, right?
I usually have multiple exit strategies.
Yeah.
And that brings us to another great question, which is, for example, when you're getting these properties and you're filling them and you've got tenants in, it sounds like you do some more creative things in regards to exit strategies where Jake and I are more buy, hold long term, keep the properties. What kind of options are you working with people that are renting from you in regards to leasing the property?
Well, I've done a lot of straight rentals too. And as I get older, I'm thinking more in terms of keeping them long term. But I've also done a lot of the lease options, which is probably what we're talking about. And what is a lease option? It's simply 2 agreements. And one is a lease. If you know what that's a lease is a fancy way of saying you're renting the property. Simple as that. When you rent a property, while they're in there and while they're current, it's their property. They can do what you're not supposed to be going in there and checking their fridge, making sure they have plenty of milk. You're not supposed to do that stuff. Get out of the fridge, Jake. But what happens is we also give them what's called an option to buy fee. Now, what is that? A lot of times, not just a fee. An option to buy is a separate agreement that says, I will agree to sell you the property. And let's say I give you a 3-year option. And let's use round off numbers. Let's say the property's worth $100,000. I may say, well, why are you not getting a loan and buying it right now? And you say, well, I went through a divorce, and of course you're going to blame the ex. It's not your fault,
right.
But it's not your fault. But your credit got messed up. Had nothing to do with the reason you didn't make. Your truck got repossessed and all that stuff. So you can't get a loan right now. Tell you what I'll do. I'll take a chance on you. I will give you a 3-year period of time to lease this option, and I will lock in a price. In return, I've got to make some money. Normally, this property would sell for $100,000. I'm going to lease it to you, and I'll give you an option to buy it back for $1,099, $110.
Yep.
Okay. Now, so that means anytime for the next 3 years, I can't take it away from you. I can't take it out underneath you. For 3 years, it's locked in. You can paint the garage. You can do it. You can't do certain things. I'm going to
Sure.
put that in my agreement. You can't knock the wall down.
Right.
You can't take the roof off and be stupid about it. Or I have the right to do what's called property preservation and take it back. But during that period of time, you can do pretty much what you want. Now, anytime at that point, you can go get a loan, you can cash me out. Now, let's talk about the worst that happens there. If you, at the end of 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and you do exercise that option, the property was a $100,000 property. If you forced me to sell it to you for 110, did I get hurt? No, I made an extra $10,000.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm like, oh, I got to wipe a tear. I feel so bad. Now, here's what happens, though, a large percentage of the time. They give you what's called a non-refundable option fee. That happens in the stock market every day, too. You may say, I want to buy an option to purchase that stock. I want to buy an option to purchase that house. They'll say, well, how much do you want for the option? Let's say I need a minimum $5,000. I'm just making up a number now. Well, for $5,000, it's a non-refundable fee. I will lock it in. They give me $5,000 down. That does come off the purchase price
Okay.
when they go to buy it. So I'm not hustling them. So let's say they're buying it for $110, but they've already paid me $5. They owe me $105.
Got it.
Right?
Okay.
Now, the advantage of that also is it protects me. So let's say at the end of 3 years, they say, I got a divorce again, had 2 more cars repossessed because I'm still me.
Yep.
I'm still human. And what happens is if they forfeit, they walk away. Now I have an option. I can ask them if they'd like to pay another option fee and extend it, or I can say, hey, this isn't working out. I wish you well, or whatever, right? But in lease options, I've done an awful lot of them. I don't know what the percentages are of people that cash you out with them, but I would probably say at bare minimum, at least half of them don't cash out. I don't know the numbers. Guru land on YouTube, you watch some expert. He's like, oh, they all cash out. He's lying. Okay, he's making videos that he wants to sell you stuff.
Right.
I'm just telling you the truth. But here's another advantage of the lease option. I tell them, I'm going to treat you like a homeowner. Do you know what that means? You're responsible for any and all repairs.
Right.
If the water heater goes bad, you don't call the bank, do you? If you're the homeowner. You go to Lowe's or Menards or Home Depot and you get one. You put it in. Okay. We're going to treat you like a homeowner. If you break a window, you fix it. Don't call me if your dog piddled on the carpet.
That's nice.
You get to clean it. Okay. Whereas as a landlord, they will call you for anything and everything.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the tenants think that you work for them, right? Hey, get over here. I broke the window again. No, we're not doing that. It's a lease with an option.
Others don't tell you anything.
Yeah. And when you get it back,
I've had
I'm sorry.
some that, like,
what was your other question?
No, that was the question.
Yeah.
It was just how do you work a lease option? Say they buy a property and they want to be creative in how they're locking it up or how they're leasing it,
Yeah.
I would say. One of the options that you found to be one of your better kind of bread and butter ways of handling that is to sign 2 documents. One's a lease.
Yep.
One is an option to purchase.
Let me jump in on that.
Okay, go ahead.
When we do the option agreement says right in it, spelled out specific contract law language that says, I understand and agree that if I default on my lease, this option agreement becomes null and void.
Right away. Yep.
Okay. Why is that a good thing? Because if they don't pay and they get behind, I don't have to foreclose them out and waste a year and $2,000 or $3,000 with an attorney to get them out. It then converts over to a standard rental agreement.
Yep.
I can evict. Depend on your state you live in, but I can have you out there in a short amount of time, reasonable, and down the road you go.
Smart.
Okay. Whereas, if you're buying a house or you're selling a house on a land contract, depends on the state you live in, that could take some time to get them out.
Yeah.
Is there a difference between land contract and lease option?
Absolutely.
Okay.
A land contract is simply an agreement that says you're buying the land and the property on it. I'm the bank if I'm the seller, and you've got an amount of time to pay. Usually it's set up amortized over that 15, 20, or 30-year period. The problem is, and it's basically owner financing where I'm the seller. The problem is if they default, it's tricky to get them out. Not tricky, but it takes time and money. That's what it comes down to. Whereas with a lease with an option, if they default, it converts from being they have the right to buy, they forfeit, it goes into a rental, and boom, I can evict them.
Right.
Now, do I want to do it? No, I want them to honor it. I'd like to see them cash me out because I'm going to make an extra $10,000. Plus, they don't get any equitable interest off. They're renting it until they cash it out. So I'm still making 100% of my money during the period of time, during that 3 years or 2 years or however long.
Do you typically add a portion of their rent to the purchase price of the home? Or do you not do that?
I've done both ways.
I know you can be creative.
You can.
With this. You can do a lot of different things.
You can say if you pay your rent wearing a blue shirt on Fridays, I'm going to take an extra $10 off. You can,
Right.
you make the rules.
Yeah.
Why? It's your game.
That's what's
Okay?
beautiful about this game.
It's like, this is my football. I get to be quarterback. If you don't like it, go buy your own football, right? I can't throw the ball, but it's my football.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've done it both ways. I've learned legally, I prefer not to give them any equitable interest because otherwise it can become messy later if you have to kick
when
them
you
out.
got to go out, yeah.
Because
The exit
if they
becomes
don't
more
pay, but
complicated.
you told them, I'll give you a $200 a month credit. Now, I've done things like, well, I'll give you a $100 a month credit for every month that you pay on time as agreed, but you have to pay with, it has to be provable, which is easy to do nowadays with the age of technology. But now I do it like this. If I'm doing a lease option, I say, you're going to rent the house for this 2 years or 3 years, whatever the time period is. And then after that, you have the right to exercise your option. Meanwhile, during the time, you're not getting any equity building up.
Yeah, smart.
Yeah.
That
So-
way, they become just a tenant.
Let's go back to this land contract thing. Explain a little bit more, maybe, what a land contract is.
A land contract is literally, in some states, it's called an agreement for deed or contract for deed. It literally is. There's a deed generally recorded that says, we're going to deed the property over to you. If you're my buyer, we now deed it to you, and we no longer own it. We own the financing. Now, if they honor it, it's wonderful because if they've had credit problems, okay, it's not my fault if you didn't pay your bills and you had your car repossessed. If I'm going to give you the chance, I get to set it a little bit higher than normal interest rate. So depending on the laws in your state, I may charge you 9.99%, 10% interest, right? So if you compound, this is another, I don't mean to go deep into the weeds, but if you count that, there's something called arbitrage. I have bought a house before on subject to where I took over a payment and they happened to buy it back when the interest rates were 4.5% of what I did. Okay. I sold that thing charging like 8 or 9% interest. Now, and I'm going to make up some numbers here, so don't hold me to this, but let's say my payment going out was $700 a month and I land contract that house to them for $1,000 a month. While my loan's paying down at this rate, their loan's paying down at this rate. Because I may only be paying I'm paying 6, 7%, 3%, 4.5, whatever, right? But they're at 9.99. Did you know on a 30-year mortgage, you don't pay it off halfway until the 22nd year on average?
Yeah, that amortization chart is crazy to see.
Why do banks do that? Because when does the average person move? Who stays in their house an average of 30 years? Most do not, right? Every 5, 6, 7 years, they get a burr under their saddle and say, you know what? Let's move.
Yep.
And they reload the interest gun against them again.
Yeah.
And they do it, and they do it, and they do. I had one house. I still own the house today. I have sold it on lease option. I know of, I think 5 times. Every time I collect a big amount of money. Last time I looked, I made over $150,000 on this house. I still own it. They paid for me.
It's crazy.
I'd like to shake their hands, buy them a pizza. Thank you. You're the greatest, right? But this arbitrage, so if you take it over, now this land contract, the deed gets recorded into their name. Here's what that does that's really good for you as the seller, if you're selling as a land contract. You're basically doing what's called owner financing. The advantage of that is you don't have a responsibility. If somebody slips and falls, they can't sue you. You're just a lender. You don't sue the bank. You sue the owner, right? Here's the downside of the land contract, Jake. If for some reason you have to take it back, this is really the only downside I see. If they also get the tax deduction for the mortgage interest, okay? So because they're paying it. So if you've been charging them, you have to give them that tax statement that, hey, congratulations, you paid me an extra $7,822 this year in interest. The downside of it is if you have to take it back, you can't just say, give me my house back and I'm evicting your butt. No, you have to hire an attorney. You have to do what's called a foreclosure. Sometimes you can offer, there's another document though, you can take it back. If you want to be nice, you can do what's called a deed in lieu. Have you heard of that? A deed in lieu, you say, hey, if you'll deed me the house over in lieu of foreclosure, I won't ruin your credit. I won't put this against you. And I will give you $2,500 to move on. And if life happened, they got a divorce or something, and they just want to move back to Indiana or wherever, they may say, you know what, I'll do it. And I've found that I do better, I don't want to say bribing them out, but putting something in their pocket so they can move. Because you can go in there as a jerk if you want and say, you're moving today at noon, but if they don't have the money to move, they're not moving.
Yeah.
Which is another tactic that's interesting, and I don't think I've done it myself. I may have actually done it with one tenant, but basically the idea of rather than going through the full process of an eviction and the stress and headache that's involved in that, a lot of times you can go to the person who's struggling, which happens to be your tenant, and offer them some kind of terms to leave by a certain time, whether that be put $1,000 in their pocket or whatever.
And you should.
Yeah.
Back during the foreclosure crisis of the mid-2000s, I bought a lot of houses in foreclosure, lots and lots and lots of them. I've done over a couple hundred deals. So, it's not my first rodeo. And we just found that if I go in there with respect, because I've been there, Lord knows. I mean, I had a partner one time, stole everything I had, emptied our bank accounts. I was off for the weekend with my wife. We would show back up. I opened the office door and it was empty. He stole everything. The only thing in the office, there was a trash can and a copy machine that was leased. He took every desk, everything, emptied our accounts. And I was like, suddenly, I went from being happy on a Friday, I went back on a Monday. This was down in Cincinnati where we was at. And I called home. We couldn't pay our bills. My father-in-law gave us a little bit of money to try to get back. I mean, I'll never forget my water got disconnected. I was at the sink. I'll never forget this. I was trying to think what to do, and I'm pacing the floor, and I'm doing this here. And I thought, and I went to the sink, and I turned the water on to get a drink, and I realized no water's coming out. I'm like, oh, yeah, they shut that off too. So I've been there. And I said all that to say this. I started broke. Yeah. So I don't believe it's wrong to be down. But I do think it's wrong to stay down. You old lazy thing, get off your butt and do something, right? And so I went to work. But I say that because if the people are struggling, don't belittle them and call them names and, oh, you loser.
Right.
Don't say that till you get back in your car. No, no, I'm teasing a little bit right there. But no, if they're going through something, say, hey, we have a problem. The best thing we do to the problem is let's find a solution. When could you be out? And what would it take? Well, because otherwise, I'll go to court. I've never lost in court. I'm going to win because we have an agreement and we're going to go before the judge. And you have to say, Your Honor, I didn't pay my bills, but I want to stay. He's going to say no, right? And the best that's going to happen for you is he may give you 10 more days or a week or something. What if I give you the movie money, you get the heck out of Dodge, and you leave my house what they call broom clean? I got one going right now, right next to the Compass. And I said, well, we leave a broom clean. She's like, what's broom clean? I said, that just means you take all your stuff with you. Don't leave me a bunch of trash and debris.
Yep.
She's like, okay, I'll do that. And she asked me, could I give her till Sunday, which was 2 days ago. And I'm going to go over today and check. Hopefully she's going. Yeah. Right? And I said, I'll do this in such a way that we won't destroy you. We won't ruin your credit.
Yeah.
Now, why am I not going to sue her? She don't have nothing. If she had money.
What good would it do?
If she had money, she'd be paying me. Right? What am I going to do? Get her old Dodge? I'm kidding. But, I'm not after her old vehicle. What was your other question?
But that's true. And more times than not, you find that you can work out some sort of a negotiation with the tenant and they will agree to be out. And most of the time, they'll honor that agreement because the alternative is, I'm going to evict you. It's going to be on your record. You're going to have a heck of a time finding another place to stay.
That right there is the key. I say to them, do you know other landlords are going to check your record? If you've been evicted?
Yeah, it's a no-go gauge.
No, I'm not going to rent to you. If you've had 4 other evictions, you need to go rent from somebody else. Yeah. I don't want you.
Yeah.
Whereas if you just treat people with respect, plus it's the right thing to do. I mean, I don't know what you believe and whether you don't believe, but I'm a Christian, and that means I have a certain moral code. And I'm not trying to tell you what to do, but my morals demand that I honor my word, and I expect you to do the same. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. If you and me make a deal, I expect you to honor your deal. So I'm not a patsy and a pushover, but still, I'm just going to try to treat them decent.
Yeah, right. And that's the premise for this whole podcast is it's about stewardship. It's about being courageous, but also stewardship in what we've been entrusted with. And part of that is to treat people properly, treat people the right way.
And you know what? You said something before we started recording that I agree with you on. I believe in a prosperity mindset. I really do. I don't believe there's a scarcity. God wants to bless all of us. Yeah. The book of Philippians 4:19 says, but my God shall supply all of your need according to his riches and glory. Yep. Now, think about that. I don't have to push you down for me to go up. If you say, hey, Mike, I bought another house, congratulations. Good job, buddy. I bought 3 of them in the last 90 days. That's not a lot to some people. Some people, they want to brag about how they can work 22 hours a day and they're trying to figure out how to work the other 2. That's just nuts. Live your life like your dog. Your dog's on the couch. He does nothing. He's fed well, right? No, I'm kidding. But what happens is there's plenty to go around for all of us.
Yeah.
I believe that I started off broke. I got them first 3 loans, and then after that, I didn't have any money. I was fixing them babies up myself. You know what I knew about fixing stuff? Nothing. But like I said earlier, with the confidence that goes with ignorance, I had a job, and I would go in at 4 in the morning. And a few of these houses, I imagine what the neighbors thought looking in, because I was working on houses at 4 in the morning with bright lights on.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to get my office clothes dirty. A lot of times I would be sanding drywall in my underwear.
I've actually walked in on you doing that.
Yeah,
before.
thank you. Yeah, it scarred you for a few days. My poor eyes, what have I seen?
These guys know each other better than I thought they did.
But what happens, I was in there and I would work on the houses at 4, 5, 6, 7 in the morning. Then I would throw my clothes on, blow the dust off myself, take an old leaf blower or something, and then go. I had a sales job. Then afterward, I was working night and day. I was doing my own toilets and my own drywall and sanding. And I didn't know what I was doing. Never forget the first time, this is a side note, a guy sprayed what they called knockdown texture on the wall. I thought, boy, that's beautiful. I didn't know how to do it. And I kept saying, how do you do that? This was back before YouTube. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have YouTube. And you had to find somebody to show you how to do something.
Yeah.
He says, I just take this sprayer and I fill it up and I spray it. Well, I thought he meant you just spray it with buckets of mud. I got 3 5-gallon buckets of mud and I sprayed the bedroom. I just mixed the mud up so it sprayed. And it didn't look like that texture. So I got another bucket. I sprayed it again. I sprayed it with 3 buckets. The drywall mud on that room to this day has got to be an inch thick.
Bulletproof.
It didn't dry for a week and a half. I kid you not. You know, if you ever seen somebody texture a wall, 15, 20 minutes later, it's starting to dry. They have a fan and you're ready to go. Mine was that thick. It started cracking. And I thought, this looks terrible. I ain't going to keep doing this. Yeah. I still own the house. That's one of the first 3 that I bought. But if you was going that upstairs, you're going to look at it like, oh, who did this? But you know what? That house is still producing income.
Yeah.
The tenants don't, when they pay their rent, they don't say, you know, that bedroom upstairs looks bad.
No, that's something I had to get used to.
Yeah.
Because I have some properties and it's like they're decent, and I think I would live in all of them. But there's some I'm like, I still can't get over it. Sometimes you put a tenant in and you're like, this is just not that nice of a place.
And they're grateful.
They're thrilled.
Yeah. They're like, thank you for choosing me.
Yeah, they are.
You.
They're so
But you know, I started,
awesome.
let me tell you something. I'll never forget one night I couldn't sleep. This is a true story. Now, I bought and sold a lot of houses, and as I got older, I started keeping a few, and I hadn't really paid attention. I just knew I was accumulating properties, and I have fun doing what I'm doing. So therefore, when you have fun, you don't necessarily have to, you know, you're not stressed out about, I got to go to work. You just, you're having fun, you're doing stuff. One night I couldn't sleep. This is a true story. Cindy was upstairs, so I went downstairs. I started monkeying around, playing on the computer. And I thought, in case something would ever happen to me, I'll make a list of houses. So I'll make an Excel list on Excel spreadsheet. So I started putting them in, and I'm putting in roughly what they're worth. You can look it up on the county auditor's site. And I was just rounding them off, not to the penny. This house worth $75,000. This worth $150,000. This worth. I'll never forget what happened to me that night. I'm putting these in the computer, and I'm adding them up. Well, Excel, you hit that little button. I think it says sum, S-U-M, and it totals it. And I wasn't paying attention. I'm just putting them in the taxes, and so if something happens, she knows what to deal with. And all of a sudden, I hit sum. I was going, and I paused, and I stopped. I'm like, all of a sudden, I had over $2 million worth of property. I had no idea.
Yeah.
And it hit me. I'm like, I've become a millionaire by accident.
I had a similar story.
Think about that. All of a sudden, I'm like, and then I couldn't sleep at all because I'm like, who can I call?
Yeah.
What's 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning? It's the middle of the night. I'm like, how'd that happen?
That's so funny.
Now, let me point something out. If you got a job working at the factory, you don't accidentally become a millionaire.
No.
Jake, you work for a cable company. You didn't accidentally become a millionaire. You made a good living, but you didn't accidentally get rich doing it.
No, I have a similar story. I have a little net worth chart that I was plotting.
Yeah.
And me working by myself before I got married to my current wife, it was a nice, steady trajectory. Then I got married, and she was good with debt and money too, so she came in, and we had a nice little bump because we got married.
Right.
Then I got into real estate. The thing went nuts.
Yes.
I had a similar night, and I was sitting there, and she's asleep. It's 4:30 in the morning, and I'm down doing exactly what you were just talking about. I'm basically tallying up our numbers because we were going to talk to the bank the next day again about another property. And I got to the bottom of the thing, and I was like, there it is. We just became millionaires that night. So I ran back down to the bedroom at 4:30 in the morning.
You wake her up?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Babes, we're millionaires.
Now, the one other thing is, it's not TV millionaires. It's real.
No.
Okay. In fact, I believe that most millionaires, once you figure out they got money, you couldn't tell until they told you.
Yeah.
They drive a normal car. They live in a normal house. They say Warren Buffett drives an old vehicle that he's had for a long time. Lives in a plain Jane house, and he's a billionaire.
It's a mindset.
Yes.
You become wealthy with the mindset.
The people that feel that they've got to put on the hot dog and put on the flash and look at what I have, look at my diamonds. Most of the time, their money's all tied up in debt.
Right.
Right?
I got a Jetta with a hole in it so big I can stick my foot in it.
Yeah.
Well, now, you probably, I'm as I get older, there's a few things I require in a car. I don't care what you think about a car. Don't look at it if you don't like it. But I want power windows because you probably can't tell, but I'm a smidge overweight, and it's hard for me to reach the other side, right? So I want power and I want air conditioning. I don't want sweat.
Oh, yeah, air conditioning.
Okay. But as long as it has those things, I was looking at another, I like diesel pickups. I was looking at another truck that day, and the guy's like, what color you want? I'm like, well, I don't care. Is white fine, black fine, blue fine? I don't care. Color means nothing to me. Does it serve my purpose? Does it do what I want it to do, right?
Right.
But that's a cool story right there. Because when it happens, most people don't experience that.
No.
So here's what I would tell everybody. Don't quit your job, but just start doing something. Get busy. You asked me before we started, you said, Mike, what's your superpower? What do you do well? You know what I do well? And sometimes it's a weakness for me. I take action.
Yeah.
Okay. I am an action-taking machine. Sometimes too soon. I'm the ready, shoot, aim guy.
We've had an episode
that's so
called
cool.
That Very Thing.
Okay. That's me.
Ready,
I've lived
fire,
my
aim.
life.
Fire, aim.
I've lived my whole life by it because here's what happens. When I find out something's working for somebody else, I operate on the pile theory. I look at my pile, I look at their pile. If they got a bigger pile, maybe I can learn something. I don't know everything. In fact, nowadays, I don't believe there's any excuse not to be able to learn something. You can jump on YouTube, and if you can think of it, there's somebody going, this is how you do it.
So
they're
good.
telling
Yeah.
you. I've always wanted to be a Brazilian basket weaver. There's probably, you type it in, somebody would be like, this is the way you weave the baskets. Now, the margins would be bad, right?
Yeah, I
Because you're going to sell a basket and make $4.
You do
Stop.
that because you love it.
Well, okay. But if you take my superpower is half the time when I get an idea, before the idea is done, I'm ready to order business cards. I mean, not really, but well, that's not true. I have done that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
same.
Do they all work? No, they don't all work.
Yeah.
Now, but here's what I would tell you want to do. Take action. If you watch this and you say, that's exciting, I love that stuff, and you never do nothing, you might as well have been watching cartoons.
Yep.
It's not going to do anything.
We're
right?
big about that first action.
There's two things. There's two things you got to do if you want to be successful. I don't care. If you're sitting there right now and you're watching this and you're broke with bad credit, doesn't matter. It's two things you got to be able to do. You got to be able to raise money and make offers. Now, if you're going to make offers, you need to know that you can back it up. If you go offer $1.7 billion to buy a property and you don't have the money, you're just wasting your time, their time, making everybody mad. Mm-hmm. But what do I mean by raising money? I got a gal I work with, and I've done this for a few other people. But I said to her, so we were talking, and I actually have a book on Amazon. I don't know if you know that. I have a book on Amazon that's for sale. It's called Starting Broke by Mike Paschall, real handsome guy. But what happens is I talk to this gal, and I'm like, hey, if you'll finance some of my houses, I'll give you a guaranteed, with her, I give her a guaranteed 8%. Now, what's in it for her? The money's secured by real estate. If I would die, which I don't like that part of the plan, but if I would die, she gets the houses back, right? Well, I'm always going to try to buy a house at a great deal. Correct, Jake?
Sure.
I'm going to buy the house at a good deal. If the house is worth $125,000 and I was able to buy it for, say, $75,000, I say $50,000. Well, if I die and she gets the house back, she gets a $150,000 asset for $75,000. It's not like she's hurt. Mm-hmm. She could sell that house pretty darn quick, couldn't she? In fact, if she put an ad around that said $150,000 house for $100,000, would she have any trouble selling it? No. Boom, 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 that thing would be gone. So she can't be hurt. But here's what's in it for her, like we talked a little bit ago. She's getting a guaranteed rate of return, in this case, 8% on her money. I pay her every month. Now, once her and I made that agreement, she said, yeah, I'll back you for that. Now I can go out and make offers. Once I know I've got cash available, and I know that she's going to give me the money, and she knows that I'm honorable, I keep my word, then how do my offers go? Now you just got to make enough offers. And when you find people that are motivated, I mean, you're a realtor, and you show that not every house fits everybody, correct? Mm-hmm. Some people want a 3-bedroom, some people want a 2-bedroom, blah, blah, blah. But if you make enough offers, here's what's going to happen one of these days. Somebody's going to say, yeah, I'll take it. I was at a lady's house. This was in a rough part of Toledo. I'm there. When I first started, let me tell you this. I decided I'm going to be an investor. Somebody said if you put a sign out that says I buy houses, they'll call you. So I did it with the confidence that goes with ignorance. This lady called me up, and she's like, I got a house I want to sell. I'm like, oh, crap. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
So I went to her house. I mean, this is a phenomenal story. All true. I went to her house. I walk up on the deck. Again, I'm a smidge overweight. You can see that, right? I go up on the back porch deck. It starts shaking. It's really, the boards are rotted. My one leg goes through. Boom! Just as she opens the door, and I'm trying to get my leg up. She says, come on in. You here to see the house? And she's chain smoking. I'm like, yeah. No, I don't smoke. I have in the past years and years ago, but they're smoking. She invites me in. They're all having a smoking contest, it looks like. The whole air. You ever been in a house like that where it's so thick, you can see the clouds, and you're like, well, I believe I see you over there. She plops down in the seat and says, go ahead and look around. There's dogs. They're behind some sort of shut bedroom door or something. You can tell they want to get out and eat me. Okay. And she's like, go ahead and look around. And I'm like, okay. Now, what am I looking at? I didn't know. I'm like, I'm trying to act like I'm an expert. I'm looking at the house. Yeah, well, you know what I knew? I've seen a house. It was rough. It was horrible. I now decide I don't want the house. I'm scared. I don't know what to do. I've saved up a little bit of money. And she says, what do you give me for it? I went down to the basement. I looked at the furnace to see if it had one because I didn't know a good furnace from a bad furnace. I didn't know anything about breaker boxes and windows and roofs and nothing. And therefore, I decided I don't want this house. So I said, well, I'm probably not your buyer. I'll give you 10 grand. I didn't want the house. She pauses. When would I get the money? And I'm like, oh, shoot. Now I'm trying to act cool and clever and like, I got to go
composure,
on.
yeah.
I'm like, well, I need a little time for closing. And I'm thinking, how do you close? I don't know what to do.
Right.
I know none of this. Okay. And I said, all right. I had been selling vacuum cleaners. I was in between stuff. I'd been selling vacuum cleaners door to door, and I didn't have a sales contract for a house. She's like, when would I get the money? I think I told her, it's either 6 or 8 weeks. I said, I need 6 to 8 weeks. I didn't to raise money. I didn't know what to do. I knew when I left her, I was going to call somebody and say, help.
Yeah.
Okay. She says, I'll take it, write it up. I went out to my car and I got a vacuum cleaner contract. I crossed out the word vacuum cleaner. I wrote the property address. I'm buying the house, and I put down $10,000. I called the title company the next day. I sent it over to the girl's name was Stacy. I'll never forget this. At a title company in Toledo. And she called me back. She says, are you on a vacuum cleaner or a house? I'm like, it's a house. Well, it says vacuum. That's crossed off. To see where it says, I wrote, to make the story really short, I met this guy. He was kind of a hillbilly guy that I kind of knew, and he was always looking for something to do. I said, hey, can you fix that back deck? I think I spent $400 between buying some deck boards and whatever he charged me. I didn't know how to build a deck, but he did. So he built me a deck, charged me $400. So the only thing I have in the house now is $400, plus whatever I'm buying for. I put that house under contract. I ran an ad. Back then, we used something called Craigslist. Facebook Marketplace wasn't even around. Is Craigslist still around?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, see, I didn't know. So I put the house for sale, $20,000. I didn't have a clue what to do. And a guy called me up, and I assigned a contract to him. We did what's called a double closing. Back then, that was allowed. It may still be. We met at a title company, had them do all the stuff. They checked the title, guaranteed to be clean. I didn't have the money to buy it. The seller comes to one room of the title company. I'm going to call that room A. And my buyer's in the next room. They have no idea. The guy brings in his $20,000, gives it to the title company. I'm in there smiling. I'm nervous. I'm flip-flopping inside. I ended up making $9,500 on the house. Didn't own it. I paid for it with the new guy's money. The seller left. The buyer left. And I'm in there wanting to hug the people to tell them, thank you, thank you. And when you go from being broke, I sell vacuum cleaners door to door. When you go from being broke to making $9,500, if you're a billionaire, you may scoff at that kind of money.
Right.
But that changed me. And that day, it just shook me. And I realized you can start broke as long as you're willing to do two things: raise money and make offers.
You got really creative on your first deal. If you did a double closing and never owned the property, you got to talk about that, because that's a concept that. Do you know much about
it's
double
like a
closings and
wholesale.
stuff?
He sold the contract,
Yeah,
so he
typically
bought
wholesalers.
it, never had to own it, and then got this guy on
I bought
board
it and
for
sold it
his
same
price.
day.
Yeah, right.
I ended up doing a bunch of those because I didn't have the money when I was starting, right? I didn't know what I was doing. I had got a loan for them 3 houses, but that was with a bank. I didn't want to go through a bank again. And I didn't. If you don't have a verifiable job, the banks don't want to make you loans.
Yeah, tell me about it.
So, I mean, you don't have a job. Well, my credit's at 800. That doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
We're not loaning you the money. Okay. So I did quite a few of them. I found a title company, and they said, we have to have what's called good funds. I said, what's that mean? The money has to be wired into our account. Okay, great. So then I knew my only job was to talk the seller and do wiring the money. That's when later I found I had to find the private lenders, because, you can't get everybody to agree to do that. But I did it on a house in Waterville. I made 15 grand on that one. I found a buyer. I bought it with his money. I didn't fix anything. And then I discovered if I could get good at making offers and getting a house under contract, it don't matter what I pay for it, because perception is reality.
Correct.
What's it worth to them?
Yep, that's all that matters.
Waterville, I found a house down there. They had Anthony Wayne schools, which I don't know if they're still good. Hopefully they are. But back then, moms wanted to have their kids at Anthony Wayne schools. Mm-hmm. If you have a good school district, that's a plus. If you're going to launch into the business, don't say, I want to buy houses in the worst part of the city. That's dumb.
Right.
I did that, but I don't recommend that, because I have done that. But the double closing, you just literally have to, the seller has to come, they're just showing up for the money, the people selling it. And the buyer, they're there just to buy it. And they said it has to be good funds. It was good funds. They put the money in their account.
Right.
And I got the spread in the middle.
Yep, that's it.
That's an incredible concept that a lot of people probably have never heard of or don't even think about. But to kind of back it up and make it a little more simple, because a lot of our listeners maybe have never done a deal. You know, they're trying to understand the nuances.
And you know why? What stops them?
Fear.
Fear. Here's what hits big in your mind. Yeah, but what if?
Yeah.
Well, what if you don't do it?
Yeah.
If you do nothing, I promise you're going to be right where you are now next year and the year after and the year after. But they're scared of the what if. You know how to beat that? Be ashamed of your offer. If you make ridiculously crazy creative offers or low offers, most of them are going to say, no, are you nuts? I wouldn't take that.
It's a numbers game.
Yeah, I'm not
It's a
taking that.
numbers game.
I used to find that when I was dating. If I ask enough girls out, I'd get one. Okay? No, I'm kidding about that because I am handsome. You can see that. But
Handsome.
thank you for telling me that, Jake.
I don't want to sit.
I'm gonna back up a little
Yeah,
bit.
I don't want to sit in the middle anymore.
But what happens is if you make enough offers, somebody's going to take it. Most are not.
Yeah.
Okay? It's simply
It's a numbers game.
It is. I know that's a cliche, but how do you alleviate fear? You structure your contract. You put in a couple clauses that say, if it doesn't meet this, this, and this, I can get out of the deal. You know, and I used to do that. Subject to partners' approvals, one I would add.
Yeah.
I didn't have a partner, but I'd make you my partner. Hey, tell me you don't want to do this deal. Sign here. Okay. We're not doing that deal, right? Because I heard you guys talk about you're analyzing numbers on a deal. You may not do it because it don't make sense.
Right.
That is a legitimate thing, subject to partners' approval. If you go out and make an offer and they take it, you can still back out if for some reason that house, it must have an oil well underground or we're not going to be able to close.
Yeah, there's a lot of outs that
Oh, yeah.
people don't realize.
So you don't need to be scared.
Right.
Yeah. And plus, here's another thing. In the contract, it says, here's my favorite one. Almost every purchase agreement I've ever written up says this. The sole thing that I can lose is my earnest money when I make an offer on a house. I always try to give them $10 or $20. That's about, usually it's $10. I say, I'm going to put $10 down. People say, on a house? Yep, because contract law says the consideration, or in other words, money, has to exchange hands for a contract to be valid. So I'm going to write you an offer to contract. Here's your $10. You agree to sell it to me for $100,000. I now owe you $99,990 due upon closing in 6 weeks or whatever date we pick.
Yeah.
Now, and it also says right in there, if for some reason I'm not able to perform, I forfeit my entire down payment.
Right.
All of the $10
whole $10
that you gave them.
A small pizza.
And I've had a few of I checked the title and they were bad. Maybe they had all kinds of liens. Yeah. I forfeit my down payment. Yeah. But I didn't lose a lot of sleep over losing $10.
Nope.
Now, if I had given $10,000 down, right?
Yeah.
So you just have to structure them in a way that benefits you.
Right.
Makes a lot of sense.
You can either use fear to limit you or to drive you.
Yeah.
I would say. And I think you're the perfect testament to allowing fear to drive you and not stay where you're at.
Well, yeah. People that are couch sitters, they suck up knowledge, they don't do nothing.
Yeah.
That'll kill you. Again, my superpower is I take action, ready, shoot, aim, however you said it, ready, fire, aim. That's always been me. Yeah. The people, if I learn a little bit, I'm ready to go make an offer. You know, now I always weigh stuff out. The reason I never become what they call a real estate wholesaler, I did some of that in the beginning, like I was talking about, but then I realized what the other people were making. Like that house that you buy a house for some ridiculous low price like that under contract. The next guy, he's going to sell, he's going to make $30,000-$40,000 and you made $5,000. Yep. Well, I'm like, I want to be the guy that makes $30,000 or $40,000. I recently bought a house 2 months ago. I think it was December, it doesn't matter. A couple months ago, I bought a house here in town, and it was a rough little house. I didn't really want it again, so I said to her, again, what do I say about my offers? You should be ashamed. I said, well, this house needs a lot of work. She said, I know. And she had inherited her mom's house, moved out, it stood empty for 2 or 3 years. The furnace hadn't worked, the water lines had frozen, burst. It did need some work. But again, if you ever worked on stuff, $2,000 or $3,000, I can have the house back, right? I said, well, would you sell the house for land value in case I have to demolish it? She says, what's land value? No, this is embarrassing, right? I said, well, you can go on the county auditor's website. Oh, this one only has a land value of $7,100. She's like, yeah, I'll do it. Why not? I'm like, okay. Right? Now, that's going to rent for about $800 a month, Jake.
Yeah.
Now, if I had let's say I spend $7,000 in the house. Let's say I spend $5,000 on it. I got $12,000 in it. If it rents for $800 a month, how long does it take me to get back to even? What do you think?
Less than a year.
Well, slightly over, but yeah, close. About a year, right? Year, it doesn't matter. Quick.
Very quick.
Now, and after that, you now have bought yourself a goose that's laying golden eggs. It lays one every month.
Yep.
Every month. Back before real estate, I used to hate the first of the month. You ever feel like that? First of the month, you're like, oh my God, my bills are due, right? I mean, you guys were fancy guys with big jobs, but I'm just a door-to-door salesman. I'm out there,
Vacuum cleaners.
Yeah, I did. I sold vacuum cleaners. I did. I sold Kirby's and Rainbows, and I was darn good at it too.
I bet you were.
Because I was straight commission. You know what that means?
Oh, yeah.
If you sell, you eat.
Yep.
If you don't sell, you have to go to grandma's and eat because you don't have any money. But I just learned that when you get this goose that lays golden eggs, now once you become you got a landlord or a seller finance or whatever avenue you choose, every month you're like, it's the first. I'm getting rents. They're paying payments to me.
Yeah.
And sometimes they call you and they apologize. I ain't gonna have the rent till the second. You're like, all right. You act like you're mad, right? You're like, what do you get on Monday or Tuesday? Does it matter, Jake?
No.
No. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's great. It's the mind shift
Yeah.
that really happens in real estate.
Here's what's great about what I would teach you to do. If you have somebody willing to say, I'll back you. And again, why would they back you? Because they're going to get a good rate of return with safety. They can't lose. They either get the money from you or they get a house on sale. Mm-hmm. If my wife says, my God, I was at the store, they had stuff over at the store 50% off, so I bought 3 of them. You know, you may be thinking, why didn't you buy 5 dresses? I'm again, probably not, but
You would say.
yeah. But if you go out there and stuff's on sale, if you've got a lender willing to back you, and you're writing offers, and you make the offer subject to a partner's approval or appraisal or whatever, you can't lose. Mm-hmm. And then if you don't know what to do, you might be saying, well, I don't know how to fix anything. Good. I think not knowing how to fix everything would be a great thing because what I'd made a mistake on, I learned how to fix everything. And for a while, I got stuck in the fixing stuff. Well, then next thing you know, I'm doing $10 an hour work, which I'd have been better off having people that can know how to do better than me. Now I got a couple guys that help me. And the one guy's, he's always like, hey, can you not help us today? We'll get more done. I'm like, I didn't want to hear that because I like to know that my opinion matters. He's like, and he'll patronize me. He'll be like, yeah, okay. Why don't you go to lunch? We got this. I'm like, darn it. Yep. They don't value my opinion.
Yep.
But they probably do a better job. They do it quicker. They do it right. I'm in there trying to figure out how to do it. And they've done this their whole life, right? I helped them frame a house on one. And we made all kinds of mistakes. You know why? I kept demanding they do it my way.
Yeah.
Now I'm learning, just bring in the framing crew. We put an addition on house. Let the framers do their stuff and get out of the way.
That's one thing I did early on in my walk in real estate was I got a team around. I got people. I hired people to do the work that they know to do. I wasn't as profitable. That was everybody's biggest push was, well, it's going to cost. I know it is, but
you could have did more deals than maybe you did.
That gave me my time back to do what I do well, which is not working.
I'm the guy at 4:30 in the morning. I'm in there in my underwear sanding drywall.
Nope.
I was dumb. Plus, if the neighbors looked through them windows that didn't have blinds and curtains on them, they probably are still scarred.
Free show, right?
Yeah.
Mama, who's that fat man? You know, you just see that kind of stuff. Ah!
Yeah. And it is smart at times to learn the business that you're in and do some of the hands-on work. But in Sean's case in particular, he's been in the game for 2 years and he's got 160 doors under his belt or 140 or whatever it is now. You know, it's like...
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Faster than I thought it was going to.
A lot faster. And a lot of that is because of the tactic that he put into place from the beginning was that I'm going to find people to surround myself with that can do this job better than I can so that I can do the thing that I'm great at.
The only regret that I would say I have is I wish I would have started younger. Yeah. But you know what?
I think we all say that.
You can't go back in time.
Nope.
No.
So here's what I can promise you. You can start today.
Yeah.
You can get yourself educated and listen, you old lazy thing, get off the couch, find out how to do it, go make an offer, raise some money. Yep. And if you just talk to people, you'd be shocked what happens. When you say to people, hey, would you like to get a higher rate of return with safety? What answer can you give me for that? Hey, would you like to get a higher rate of return with safety?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, what are you going to say? No.
Right.
Well, good, then give me your extra money. That makes no sense, does it?
And then if sometimes you get in a space, you be in it for a while, reputation matters. And then like people worry that it's so hard to find the capital or to go raise the money. It's not that hard to raise the money.
If the deal's good.
And if you get a few deals.
Except they don't try. That battle's in their head.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, you're not even trying.
It's like the guy when you're in junior high. At the junior high dance, all the girls are on one side, all the boys on one side, and only a few get to dance together until the end. Why? Because the boys are like, I can't ask her to dance. Yeah. She'll shoot me down. The girls are over there dancing with each other because the boys are too scared to ask them. And that's 6th, 7th, 8th grade, right?
Yeah.
Okay? Or whatever. Same thing. The battle's in their head. You've achieved success because you said, you know what? I'm going to pull the trigger and see what happens.
Yeah, I embrace rejection.
Yes.
I go after it
I don't
because
know
I'll
that-
get a yes eventually.
I don't think I ever really learned to like it. I just understood that it was a necessary part.
Yeah.
So
It is.
I mean, people say, I love getting told no. No, that you don't love it. No. But you just know that I'm this much closer to achieving my goal.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, can you give us like a book or a podcast, video, piece of content, something that can help listeners about what it is that we've talked about, something that's maybe helped you?
You know, because I did direct sales for so long, to be honest with you, most of what I did wasn't really real estate when I first started. One of the books that I studied, I probably read it 4 or 5 times, was Zig Ziglar wrote a book called Secrets of Closing the Sale. He had wrote books on attitude. I used to study that stuff. Was it real estate related? No, not really. But it was dealing with humans. It was dealing with people.
Yeah.
And I believe just because of, I guess, studying that stuff, I can talk to anybody about anywhere. In fact, if me and my wife go out to eat, she might say something like, hey, don't talk to people tonight. Right? Because I'm always like the guy next table, hey, how you doing, bud? You know, next thing. People skills. I wish I could tell you I had great real estate training. I did not. Later on, I think one of the books I really enjoyed was Robert Kiyosaki wrote the book everybody talks about, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I don't know how much of that stuff's true, but it sounds good. You know, because they get you motivated. But, you know, he talked about getting shot down in a helicopter, and he's still, you know, I'm thinking, well, you get shot down in a helicopter. I don't know how much more offers you're going to be making.
Yeah.
But I don't know that I really have one in particular. I read the Bible a lot because I believe in morals. I believe in integrity. I believe you got to be realistic. But again, if I was starting nowadays with YouTube, if you're interested in a subject, let's say you're interested in land contracts or seller financing or subject to, there'll be a bunch of good teachers on YouTube. You just have to use wisdom and discernment, sort them out.
Who's the right one?
If you're watching some guy and he's like, I'm 19, this is my whole string of $1 million cars, shut him off. He's full of malarkey, right? I want to see the guy that says, I have 40 doors or 50 doors or 100. I can learn from that guy or that gal. That gal that Saturday, I went and met with, she said she had $4 million worth of property. That wasn't really astounding. She's accumulated, I think she said 42 houses. 42 single family houses. Well, you can do the math. If they're worth $100,000 a piece, we're in Ohio.
Yep.
In Ohio, you can buy the whole block for $200,000. Not really again, but I mean, if you're watching this and you're in a state where it costs $1 million for the doghouse, you know, you can still do it there. It's just different margins, different numbers, different expenses. But she accumulated 42 houses. Do you realize, let's say you did that over, if you bought a house every 6 months, and you'd buy 2 houses this year, you'd have 2 houses next year, right? So if you bought 2 houses a year for 5 years, you got 10 houses. If 10 houses are spinning off $1,000 a month, you got an income now of $10,000 a month. Now, unless you're an idiot or a fool, you ought to be able to live decent on that. I don't mean TV rich, right? You're not going to have the biggest Hollywood pool you ever seen. But for $10,000 a month, if you can't pay your bills, you need to handle some money management. Yeah. One of the other people I used to enjoy was Dave Ramsey. I liked his training on getting out of debt and paying down, right? Dave Ramsey, good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't sell his stuff, but it's good. It's common sense.
Yeah.
You know the old saying, common sense is not so common? The people that live up to here in debt, that if they ever miss a payment, they're drowning, that's their own fault.
Yeah, so people get it mixed up. I talked to a lot of people about the Robert Kiyosaki and the Dave Ramsey. Yeah. We're like, well, Dave Ramsey says you can't have debt, and Robert Kiyosaki says you go borrow the bank's money to buy property. And they're like, well, how does that? That doesn't make sense. I'm like, it's not the way you're thinking about it. It isn't this. It isn't and. It's you do Dave's first, then you do Robert Kiyosaki.
There was a guy, I would consider him almost a real estate hero. His name's John Burley. He's from Phoenix, Arizona. Jake, you probably heard of Phoenix, Arizona. I know you said you used to live.
I lived there.
You lived there, right. John Burley, way back in the day, he had a method. He had no money. Now, this is what he did. He would approach people that were professionals, maybe a dentist, a doctor, an accountant, people that had high-paying incomes, right? But what did they lack? Time. The doctor, he's a slave to that income. He may make $500,000 a year, but he's there, right? He had on call night and day.
Yep.
High income net worth people. He would go to them and this is what he did. This is expensive. He wouldn't even offer to borrow their money at an interest rate. He'd say, I'll do all the work. I'll do all the deal. We'll 50-50 it. And here's what we do. They would buy the house, and they'd title into their LLC or whatever, and they would do the deal together, and he would get the house cash flowing. And they would split whatever they made right down the middle. It was great for the high net worth, the professional, because all of a sudden he's got tax deductions and he's got his net worth is growing, and he could brag to his buddies when they're out playing golf. I got half of 15 houses. I got half of 10 houses. I got half. But what it did for John now knew that he could make cash offers with no inspection, all cash. We'll close next week if you want to. He could outbid all kinds of other people because they could bring the money to the title company in a sense, write a check. I talked to John. I had dinner with him. I was at a real estate meeting, and they happened to have us all have dinner that night, and I sat at his table. Now, I knew who I was talking to. The other people were just talking about stupid stuff. Who do you think's going to win the football game? Hey, did you see what the Reds did? Who cares? I'm sitting here with the guy. He had 700 houses when I sat down with him, that he owned half of them. Now, I'm not going to do math on camera because that's stupid. And we don't know math.
I tried that earlier in the episode. Didn't go so well.
Yeah. But watch this. He said they would average making anywhere from $200 to $400 a month per house.
Cash flow.
Cash flow.
I got it.
Okay. Well, if you're making, let's say it's $300 a month on average, right? Somewhere between $200 to $400 cash flow. If you make 300 times 700 houses, how much is that, Jake?
That's $210,000.
$210,000 a month coming in, which half was John's.
Yep.
And he hired a full-time bookkeeper gal in the office to do the payouts, to distribute, and he would cap them. He'd say, now, I'm only going to let you buy 10 houses. I'm only going to let you, until you prove yourself to me. And he did it in such a way that they would be in line on a waiting list. When can you use my money? And now, here's what they would do. They would go to work at their jobs or their accounting firm or their law office or their hospital. They brag, I'm averaging about whatever the percentage of money was, right? No kidding. Guess what their friend said? How do I get in on that? Right? And he had people waiting for him to take their money, and he just made us. He's still active. John Burley, good guy. He's my age. Not nearly as handsome as me, but
he's old. He's old.
He is old, yeah. But you know what I always liked about him? He was ethical. He was honest. If a deal was a bad deal, he'd say it's a bad deal. You might not always like what he would tell you, but that night when we had dinner, we sit there for probably 3 hours. And I pretend like I was just selfish. I didn't let nobody else ask him. I just sit and drilled him. And in my mind, when I left, I was like, okay, this is phenomenal.
You've been in the mind of a genius.
But you know, there's a lot of good training out there. There's a lot of good books. My book's on Amazon. But if you don't buy, I don't care. I make $1.
Right.
So it's not like, ooh, I sold.
What's the name of it again?
Starting Broke.
Starting Broke.
Yeah. And the reason I picked the title because I started broke.
Right. It's a good title.
A lot of us do.
Yeah.
This was a really, really great episode. It feels like going to class here in creative finance and real estate and some alternative strategies that maybe Jake and I haven't even used or done too much of. But if people want to connect with you, Mike, how can they reach out?
I have an email that I don't give out a lot, but I will. I have an email called iownIndiana@gmail.com.
Okay.
I own Indiana, just spelled out IOWN, in Indiana. The reason I do that because I don't want to give out my cell phone. If you want, we can give out your cell phone number. Then you can forward to me. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Let's not do cell phones.
And here's why I'm a little bit guarded on that. I'll do anything I can to help somebody. Sincerely will if they're an action taker. What I don't want is the tire kickers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Those people that
We talked about that.
Oh, the people that are going to always talk about someday. Someday's not coming for them.
Yeah.
Okay. Someday when they get to heaven, they're going to stand before Jesus, and he's going to go, "Why didn't you do something?" Mm-hmm. They're going to go, "Oh." Okay. They have that scarcity mindset. Yeah. They live defensively. They're the people storing up food in the basement. They buy the military food that's going to last 25 years, so in case the world ends, they can still eat. Somebody with a gun is going to take that food, right? Now, right. I believe in the prosperity. I believe in the goodness of God. I believe God wants you blessed. I'll tell you what I do every night before I go to bed. I quote 6 scriptures to myself. If you don't believe the Bible, that's your problem, because I still believe it. Well, you might tell me you don't believe there's a Cleveland, but I've been there. I believe in Cleveland too, right? Not the Browns, but I believe there is a city.
Hey, whoa, take it easy.
We got a fan here.
Oh, no. But every night I say, but my God shall supply all of my need according to his riches and glory.
Amen.
And then I quote Ephesians 3:20. It says, but now unto him who is able to do exceeding abundantly above all that I can ask or think of. And one day I said, Lord, I can ask and think of a lot.
Yeah.
But he put it in the Bible. Don't get mad at me for giving him back what he put in there. And I do this to myself because if you choose to succeed, I'm your fan. But if you choose to do nothing, that's on you. Big Daddy here's still going to go to work.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
What are those other scriptures?
I do that one. I do Proverbs 10:22 says, "The blessing of the Lord, it maketh rich and addeth no sorrow thereunto." So therefore, I know that I ask God to help me to walk in His blessing. Psalms 89:34 says, "My covenant will I not break, nor alter the thing that is going out of my lips." In other words, God said to me right there, "I won't break my word. I'll keep my word."
Yeah.
So therefore, I become a giver because I trust God that He's going to honor it.
Yeah.
And then I also quote, because I do need healing in my life, sometimes my knees hurt and stuff, and I quote 1 Peter 2:24 that says, "Who his own self bare our sins in his own body on the tree, that we, being dead in their sins, should live under righteousness, by whose stripes we are healed." Why do I do that? Now, you may not believe the Bible, and again, I don't care what you believe. I know what's working for me. And you come too late to tell me this real estate don't work. You've come too late to tell me God don't love me. I'm not trying to shove anything down your throat. Your podcast is called Courageous Stewards for a reason. I like the name. If it said, "Get rich and drive fancy, flashy cars," I'd be
You
like,
probably wouldn't be here right
well,
now.
I wouldn't believe you.
Yeah.
Because have you ever heard the expression, if it sounds too good to be true?
Chances are it is.
It is. Yeah. It just is. You see some ad. Click here to get rich. Click here to lose weight. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Slightly more than that you have to do.
Well, yeah. Well, I see the other day they're advertising a weight loss pill. But then when you listen to that guy at the end, he goes, and he's rattling all the things it's going to do to you.
Yeah.
It's going to give you a heart attack, and your kidneys are going to fail, and you're like, good Lord.
Yeah.
I don't want that. That's a bad plan. I'm sorry. Keep going.
Yeah.
I do want to say one thing before you close us out, and that is we're not accountants. We're not attorneys.
What?
We are coaches. We're encouragers. And so anything that's been said on this podcast, go do your own due diligence.
Yeah, because I might make up stuff.
Honestly, though, there is a lot of wisdom and knowledge that's been added here on this podcast, but it is still everybody's responsibility to go figure it out for themselves. Use some of the base knowledge that we've given you and go take action. That's really what this entire podcast has been about, is be an action taker when nobody else is, right? Sean?
Don't sit and wait for it to come to you. You've got to go out there and get it. I love what was shared here. I was listening a lot because there was just so much information here. It was like I said, going to class. I mean, it was just nice to sit with an expert in this side of things, and we appreciate your time. We thank you guys for listening. Follow us on Instagram. We're on Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. Like and subscribe. Check us out on your favorite podcast platform. Follow us, comment, leave us likes, let us know what you're thinking, and we just love to hear from you. We appreciate your time. Mike, thanks again for being on. Great episode, probably one of the better ones for sure. A lot of content.
Yes, everybody
here.
give me a hand. I'm kidding.
Let's get
really good stuff.
Tune in next time. Thanks again.
Thanks, everybody.